Ted, we're here in the heart of Washington wine country, and talk to us a little bit about what you think Washington needs to do next as far as tourism goes.
Well, clearly we've come a long ways in the last 20, 30 years with tourism. We have some great centers, wonderful restaurants, but it's a fraction of what we need. And I think if we fast forward 10 years, think ahead, we need to have culinary schools, B&Bs, we need to have really 3-star Michelin restaurants, and there's no reason not to. This summer I was just in the Rhone area, and everywhere you go you see these rural restaurants, and they have perhaps 20, 30 rooms, but then they have 2-star, 1-star, 2-star Michelin restaurants. I mean, there's absolutely no reason why we can't have that in Washington.
And what do we need to do to get there?
Well, certainly we've got to demonstrate to investors that it makes sense to put these great restaurants here. And it would be helpful for the wine industry to put together a team to go out and work with restaurants, investors, and to put these world-class resort/high-quality restaurants that would be destination places.
I suspect that the Washington Wine Commission is very busy with promoting Washington wine globally and nationally, but also promoting it within the state. And is that a role that the Wine Commission could play as well?
I think so. Historically, the Wine Commission has had plenty of work to do in building brand Washington wine. But to build the brand, we need to create tourism. And every great wine region in the world, whether it's old world, new world, have the kind of resources that draw people to the wine region. And we have some, there's no question, and we should really take care of those people that have taken the risk to put in the restaurants, to put in the inns, but we need to go further. And we are a world-class wine region recognized everywhere. We need to have world-class infrastructure that supports wine tourism.
Any thoughts of getting in the restaurant industry yourself?
The wine business is tough enough. I think we'll stick to that until we have it fully mastered.
Speaking of restaurants, you guys were recently honored as the top wine brand in restaurants. You want to talk a minute about that?
Sure. We have a very simple philosophy, and that is great wines are in great restaurants. And so as we have been a leader in expanding distribution of Washington wines around the world, we're in 50 states, 70 countries, we really have focused a lot of our energy on restaurants. Because better than advertising is the advertising you get when you're on a wine list in a fine quality restaurant. And when consumers come into restaurants and they look at that wine list and they see the same wines on it, restaurant to restaurant, it builds familiarity and it eventually builds sampling. And so we put a tremendous amount of sales resources around restaurants, and as a result, just recently Chateau Ste. Michelle was named as the #1 wine in chain restaurants throughout the United States.
Speaking of tourism, 10 years ago you took over this company as CEO, and you and I talked back then about what your goals were, and you wanted to be on Red Mountain, you wanted to be in Prosser, you wanted to be in Walla Walla, and you've done all those things. What's next for Ste. Michelle Wine Estates in Eastern Washington?
Well, we keep adding AVAs, we're going to have to keep adding wineries. I do think that there's some things we'd like to explore. One would be adding a hospitality feature at our Chateau Ste. Michelle Canoe Ridge Estate Winery. We're certainly going to continue to look at some of the new AVAs, but we also have to keep focused and keep building the experiences that people get when they go to Columbia Crest or they go to North Star or Spring Valley, and make sure that we're best of class and that people have a remarkable experience when they go to those wineries.
Ste. Michelle hasn't really had a tasting room presence in Eastern Washington for about 20 years, you figure?
It's been a couple decades, and as you know, we used to have a tasting room in Grandview at our Grandview facility. Was not the most plush, beautiful. Probably the best way to describe it is rustic experience. And of course, today, with hundreds of wineries in the state, it requires something more than an old, rundown building to impress and to lure consumers in to have a great experience.
It seems like the Canoe Ridge facility was built with the tasting room in mind, but it just never happened. So it seems like something that probably could happen as quickly as you wanted it to, I suspect.
Well, as you know, it's a very remote facility. It's quite beautiful, particularly the vistas from the vineyard and from the winery. We actually designed it not to have tourism. And in the early phase, the thinking was we just want to make red wine, and we're going to focus 100% on great Cabernets, Merlots, Syrahs, and really focus on red. And we've done that now, and it's been there for almost 20 years. And so after 20 years of making great wine, maybe it's time to open up a little tasting room and tourism hospitality area.
And I think with the renown now of the Mog Monster, everybody wants to see that thing in action, right?
Yes, the Mog Monster has gained a lot of fame. I think if people just read the headline, they might be concerned about a Mog Monster at Chateau Saint Michel and not really understand, so we encourage people to read the whole story.
Right. Well, Ted, thanks for your time.
Thank you.